Welcome back to the Montford Point Marine Podcast. I am your host, Captain Davis. In today's episode, we will be sitting down with Staff Sergeant Eugene Groves. Hailing from rural South Carolina, Mr. Groves' career in the Marine Corps began in 1946 and lasted 20 years into the early days of the Vietnam War. He is a pious man whose faith has served him well through some of the Corps' toughest battles, including the landing at Incheon and as one of the survivors of the Frozen Chosen. In addition to the Korean War, Mr. Groves served in the 1st and 2nd Marine Division and has deployed numerous times overseas. Join me as we learn about this incredible Montford Point Marine.
This is Staff Sergeant Eugene Groves, United States Marine Corps retired.
As one of the original Montford Point Marines, you have a legacy in your time at Montford Point and just operationally in Korea,
Yes.
World War II. So
Okay.
I'm very humbled to be here, and I'm glad we're here to tell your story. We'll start off, give us a little background about yourself, what war you're born.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start before I went in the Marine Corps. Well, I was born in rural Anderson County, South Carolina, and I was raised more or less by my grandparents on a farm, and I attended elementary school in rural South Carolina. I had about a mile of walk to school, and when I started to high school, I had to walk 5 miles because the only high school was in the town of Belton. And going back and thinking about it, and the times that I was walking the highways, the white kids had buses, and they would yell at us and call us all kind of names, throw stuff at us, you know. But the one thing about it, our parents were strict, had to go to school. And another time, when we was growing up, we had our Sunday go to meetings closed, you know, that we go to church and stuff like that. And when we came home, we'd take them off. And then for summertime, we went barefooted during the summer, unless we were going to church or going to school. So those are some of the things I remember. I remember when we first got electric lights in the country, and growing up, and one day it was raining and they couldn't work on the farm, so us kids, we was down by the mailbox while the kids, grown-ups were talking, and the farm that my grandfather was working for, this white man, he had a son, and his son came down the road on his bike and hit me in the back, and I swung on him. Grandfather's eyes got big as a silver dollar. Because, you know, he was afraid for me because, you know, back then, where we came from, there was a lot of Klansmen and stuff like that. Night riders and all that stuff. That's going way back. And that was about a month before my 17th birthday. So we talked about going in the service, you know. My grandfather served in World War I, and all my uncles was serving during World War II. And I was just a little bit too young to be drafted, you know. So I thought it best that before I got in trouble with these white people, you know, I talked about joining the service, said okay, and they gave me the approval, you know. So my buddy and I, he lives in South Carolina, we went in together. We walked 9 miles to the town of Anderson to join the service. We was just gonna go in the service. And the Army and Navy was full, so the Marine Corps was there. So he said, yeah, we'll take you. And you could do 18 months, 2 years, or 4 years, you know. He said, how much time do you guys want? I said, give us 4 years. My buddy looked at me. And I said, okay, 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, we on the bus going to Jacksonville, North Carolina. And there happened to be a couple of Marines on there. I guess they had finished boot camp, you know, down back on boot leave. And we said, yeah, we just joined the Marine Corps, we on our way to North Carolina. And they just looked and smiled, you know, because we didn't know what was going on, you know. So we got to Camden Hill that night. We got in Jacksonville, and they had a military transportation to take us to the base. And as soon as we got at the main gate, got through the main gate, that's when the hell started. Oh man, I was not used to all that cussing and name calling and talking about your mom and your daddy and all that stuff. So, Lord, what did we get into? But we endured. Went through boot camp. We had drill sergeants. One was called Blue Jesus, this is Wilson Floyd. Judo Jones. I'm trying to think of some of the names of those. They're all black then, you know. And they were tough, but they didn't get no breaks at all. So there's so many of us that went in that, you know, during that time. I think they probably formed about 8 or 10 platoons at one time. And I happened to be in the 20th platoon, and my buddy was in the 21st, I believe. So in boot camp, that's where you learn discipline. I had a habit of laughing and stuff, you know. Monday, we were snapping in on the wooden targets, you know, before you go to firing, right? And somebody said something, and I laughed. The next thing I know, I was up against that thing, and I knew how I got there. My drill instructor was Judo Jones. He was, and we finished boot camp, and we got separated. I ended up going to Guam. I think he went to Earl, New Jersey, I believe, and spent 3 years on Guam. Hurricane came through and knocked down the camp. And come home a little early. And by the time I came home, what we were going to do was police action, you know, in California. I landed in Korea September 1950 at Incheon. From Incheon, you know, we fought all the way to the Chosin Reservoir in the north. And about a month, no, less than a month after I was in Korea, I received my draft notice. And I asked my platoon leader, said, they're giving me 72 hours to report.
So they drafted you while you're in Korea.
And he said, only place you're going is back to foxhole. And I knew that. So, Korea was, you know, we was there during the hot part in September. And by the time we got up north, man, it was cold. It was cold. We got surrounded up there by 9 Chinese divisions. We were just lucky enough to make it out. Came back and started the spring offensives again in 51. And finally got sent home. And while I was over there, I met my buddy. He came over there on one of the drafts, and he was in 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. And we got to see each other and then separated again. We came back to the States about the same time. And I was at San Diego waiting because we were supposed to get out, you know. I re-enlisted and he didn't know it. So I was stationed in San Diego, Camp Pendleton, Boston, California. Finally shipped back east and with the 2nd Marine Division, 2nd Light Support Company. Served there off and on. Another tour back overseas to Okinawa. That was after the war. And came back to Quantico, Virginia. And I met him again when I was, because I got married in 54 while I was out of the June. And when she found out I was being transferred to Quantico, she came up house hunting and found a place in Northwest Washington. And when I ran across my buddy again, he was living in Washington. And so I stayed at Quantico. I'm just going a little fast because I was on my toes. While I was at the June, you know, went on the med cruises and stuff like that. And when we didn't go on the med cruises, we're going to Vieques, you know, for maneuvers down there, you know. And all in all, I had a pretty good Marine life, you know, some rough spots here and there, but I made it out and finally got my discharge in 66, and plus after that I did my 10 years fleet reserve. I didn't make it to NAM. I had orders to go to NAM, but I had orders to get an operation on my foot. And I requested my draft be delayed, and they canceled my orders. Then I put in to go in the Fleet Reserve. That's the only thing that got me out of that. All in all, I had a pretty good life in the Marine Corps. I enjoyed the Marine Corps, loved the Marine Corps. I met my wife in September 1954. We were married in December 54. And we had about 47 years together, you know. And she was an educator. And, you know, I was in the Marine Corps, and then when I retired, I worked for Joint Service Administration for 18 years. And retired from that. And let's see, in 84, I believe it was. And we both came to joined the Metropolitan Baptist Church, and I've been a member of Metropolitan Baptist Church since 87, I believe it was. And served on the usher board, the men's ministry, security, anywhere you think, just about. And my wife passed in 96. So I want you to ask me some questions and then
You joined in 1947, right?
I went in 1946.
46, I'm sorry.
46. August 1946.
You were assigned to the 51st Defense Battalion? Or?
No, the 51st, I wasn't in the 51st. The 51st was formed, and I think they were the 51st and 52nd Defense Battalion. They went overseas, and I went overseas in 1947 to Guam. I stayed on Guam and came home, and then, like I say, went to Korea, served in Korea. Most of my time was spent with the 2nd Marine Division, most of the time, at Camp Lejeune.
What job did you have in 2nd Division?
2nd Division, I was in water purification.
Okay.
You know, I was pumping water anywhere I could find water, set up.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, while I was, I don't know for now, but we had maneuvers over in Taiwan, and I had to pump water out of rice paddies, you know. And the vehicles, I was pumping water out of a stream on a cattle ranch.
Interesting.
Yeah, we pump water for bathing, water for cooking, you know, water for drinking, you know, stuff like that. And I remember one occasion when I was in Korea, they set us up 10 miles inside the enemy lines, and we were supposed to be the cheese for the rat to attack. And then when the rats came in, then, you know, the forces would take care of the rats.
Right.
Yeah. They put us in there. We didn't know it until we went there.
So you was a tactical bait.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about all those tunnels and things they had over there, man. And they'd hide in those tunnels, come out shooting, and you could drop napalm, and as soon as that napalm dropped and was out of the way, they'd come back out of those holes. So you had to send bodies in there to get them out of those holes, man. That was using a lot of napalm then, you know, it's outlawed now. And we've seen a lot of Marines wounded, dying. And I said that once you're in combat, you know, they say, oh, so-and-so got it today. They might be saying thing about you the next day. You know, it's just got on you like that. You didn't even bother about it, you know, about living or dying. And I more or less grew up in Korea, you know, because I was still a boy when I was in the Marine Corps. But I was determined to make it, so I made it, and I'm glad for it. I improved my education while I was in there and everything, when I had the opportunity, because most of the time, you know, When in Fleet Marine Force, you traveled in the field a lot, so I had to get mine in between and stuff like that, But I've met a lot of friends, and the conventions and things, I would go to the conventions. I've seen me a lot of friends, my guys. Look for them every year, So I kind of gonna miss that because with my situation now, unless it's here, I won't be able to do any traveling since I have to go on dialysis every other day, but I'm not worried about that, I'm at peace, because God has blessed me. I never thought I'd get to be this age. And I'm just glad about it.
I'm very appreciative to have you here, and I'm very appreciative that for everything you've done, sacrifice in your own life, and being in Korea and going through some difficult times. I can only imagine what that was like. I've heard from other veterans of the Korean War. Moving to something lighter. In 2012, you guys Montford Point Marines were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal by President Obama. So, if you want to speak about that experience, being formally recognized by the President and by the Marines for your guys' sacrifice and your guys' historic movements?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you about some incidents that happened when I came back from Korea.
Okay.
That was stationed out at Geiger. And we've been going to the movies, and every day had us sitting up in the balcony all the time. So we decided that one day we said we're going to the movies tonight, but we're not going in the balcony. We're going to sit all over the place. So we did. Naturally, the fights broke out, and it all cleared up. They closed the theater down for about 3 weeks, but when they opened it back up, we could sit in it where we wanted to. So we integrated that, and the boys, when they, even overseas, I remember on Guam, they would, white boys start drinking that 3.2 beer, and then the words start coming out, and they fight. They would line us up about 2 or 3 times a week trying to figure out who done beat these guys up. And we looked so mean, they were scared to name somebody. And they was telling the Guamanians that we had tails and all that stuff, all that mess. And I remember a story my grandfather was telling me, say, the only time he felt like a human being and a man was when he was in France. The World War I veterans, they came back, they didn't get nothing. It wasn't awarded anything, they just back to the old Jim Crow slavery time, And I remember that. And so that was one time, one reason I was always, trying to make things better for other people. I was always looking out for my troops. I remember one time on the base, they would come to my platoon and get the black boys. We go to the white barracks and pick up all the trash around the barracks. And they'd be throwing stuff out and cussing you out and stuff. So they come to me one time. I said, I don't have any spare. So my troops not going any place. I said, I need them here. And that was the first time I was put up for staff sergeant. And they said, we can't promote him. He's too much for the troops, But, all this stuff going on after the Korean War. If you go in town and ride the bus, when you get ready to come back, they load the white boys up first, and then if it's in a room, you could get on. But if you didn't leave town and early enough, you end up having to walk back to the base. All that stuff was going on, And they had a few Klansmen in the Corps then.
It was a difficult time to try to navigate.
Yeah, you know when they first started going in the Marine Corps, they didn't want to send. And they tried to do everything they could to make it fail, make it drop out. Even when I was in, we had what they call the zero platoon. You couldn't make it, put you in the zero platoon and muster you out. But some of the same guys that did make it in the Marine Corps, they had good careers even in the Army, places like that, and they had good long careers. I talked to some of them, a couple of master sergeants, and matter of fact, one wrote a book. I met him at the Vietnam's veterans program they have every year up in Baltimore. They didn't have it this year. And he was one. So probably I remember when we didn't have any lieutenants. Matter of fact, no officers. I guess you know about Branch.
I've heard his name.
Yeah. And Peterson. Matter of fact, we would start the Montford Point Marine Association started the protest to try to get him promoted, to general. And that all started by the Montford Point Marine Association. And finally, he was the first black general. You ever read his book?
Frank Pearson's book, I have.
Yeah, Into the Eye of a Tiger or something like that. He was talking about his experience and everything. But we all have experiences, and we've came a long ways, and I still promote the Marine Corps, and I always will, because and all in all that I went through and everything, I don't think I would enjoy it in any other service but the Marine Corps, But, somehow all this mess that maybe you can put something together out of it, and it will encourage other people, young Marines and people that are thinking about being a Marine to join the Corps, because I don't think there's a finer organization than the Marine Corps. But they have really came a long ways, and improving their services to Marines and their training and discipline, and I think it's second to none. And I'm just proud to be a Marine.
Well,
I'll continue to support the Marine Corps and all veterans, as long as I have time here on Earth.
Well, I will say that because of you and because of Marines like you taking the leap and joining and establishing a legacy, it would be my career in the Marine Corps wouldn't be possible. So my own career in the Marine Corps would not be possible.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the Marine Corps much until I joined. I didn't know about Montford Point Marines until years after I'd been in the Marine Corps. And to come to find out, the Marine Corps wasn't always integrated, and the struggle to integrate started in the 40s with boot camp, which lasted for 8 years before they actually fully integrated. it speaks a lot that you start coming from rural South Carolina, walking 9 miles, and join the Marine Corps 2 weeks later, and have a 20-year career spanning Guam, 2nd Marine Division, and Korea, and so on and so forth. It says a lot. Rising to be, ultimately ended up being a staff sergeant in a time when, you know, they held African Americans back, and they did everything, like you said, to muster them out and chapter them out back into the civilian world and other branches. It says a lot that you were able to have a career that as long and it's impactful.
Yes.
So I appreciate you guys and everything you've done.
Yeah, I'd like to, like I was doing back then and even now, you know, once you go in the service, that's in the Marine Corps, get the best of it out of it that you can. You know, it's bigger than you. You know, it was there before you, and you just learn to take orders and do it to make yourself a better Marine. You know, and to help to advance yourself. If you're going up being hard-headed and stuff like that, and a lot of things you don't like, so you just have to put up with it. Especially going through boot camp and stuff like that, you know. It all makes you better if you just let it just like water off a duck, you know. So I learned to make the best of it and try to get the best out of it that I could, you know. And doing my best to encourage others that's thinking about going in the service. I say the Marines is the place for you. And I also try to push the scholarship program, you know, the branch scholarship program. Tell them how they can get a free ride. You know, if they apply themselves and you know, and get good grades, they can get in. And the Marine Corps would give them a free ride on the scholarship, plus stipends, you know. So I have a couple of kids. We gave some scholarships to some kids that was going to teach. And I have one guy from my church. He graduates this year, I believe, from North Carolina Central. We gave him a scholarship, our chapter did. And I'm looking for great things from him. Even if he doesn't go into service, you know, he can make a contribution to his community and society, you know, by having the opportunity, you know, to go to school, you know. I appreciate education.
Speaking of education and speaking on contributions to the community, how did you, did you think that your service in the Marine Corps would lead to a bigger community with the Montford Point Marine Association or just DC in general? Did you think that did you think your time in the Marine Corps would lead to such a big legacy?
Did I think my time in the Corps
would lead to such a great legacy?
Well, I'm just, you know, I'm glad to know that we finally recognized as pioneers, more or less, in the Marine Corps, and to help advance the programs in the Marine Corps. I wish I had more officers, you know, to participate. And but maybe in time, you know, that would grow. Well, we try to encourage it. I would, you know, and just remember the way have already been paved. You know, take advantage of the opportunities. You know, I don't think there's a greater military organization, like I said, than the Marine Corps. And we all have a few faults and things like that, and we have a few 10%ers out there that mess up every now and then. But overall, I think our standards are great. A lot of things that I try to think back, and if I don't write these things down, I just don't remember them like I should. But overall, I'm proud to be a Marine. I don't say have been, because once a Marine, always Marine. I believe that. It's just something about us that kind of stands out from all the other military organizations. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to know? I don't know.
I think you've done a phenomenal job, and like I said, I'm always going to be in awe and very much humbled by your services and your time in the Marine Corps. Like I said, you guys paved the way for Marines like me to pursue careers that I never ever thought would be imaginable. Coming from a young enlistee to a Mustang officer. I remember when we first met last year at the gala, and you guys were just amazed at the fact that I was an infantry officer that had a previous career as a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps.
I have served as the chapter president, national recording secretary, and I guess chaplain for life. I know I served over 30 years as chaplain of the DC-6, and still fills in when the chaplain can't do it now, as the spiritual leader of the group, down, drag out, arguments, cursing and all that kind of stuff. And we had one president, every other word was a cuss words. So we started putting a fine on every time you curse, it costs you $1. So all those fellas are gone now. So that's the most of them, as far as I can know, as far as I can tell, are in tune with who our Creator is, and recognize that, and give Him the glory for His steadfastness over us and bringing us this far on the way and keeping us together, So without God, if you don't have God, you don't have anything. But we have to recognize that.
Amen.
He is our Father and our Creator, and everything you have, ever hope to be, is comes from Him.
Like again, sir, I'll reiterate this. I'm extremely humbled to be in your presence and the career that you had and your ability to affect not just your peers or your family or your immediate community, but the impact you've had on Marines as a whole. There are several thousand Marines out there like you and I that whose careers have been defined by yours, the path you guys set. So very much thank you. And I think the nation thanked you guys in 2012 when President Obama awarded you guys the Congressional Gold Medal.
Right.
And that had to be something else. You guys spent nearly 70 years or 60 years before you're formally recognized for your actions.
Yeah, I was thinking here the other day, I said, 74 years ago, September, I landed in Korea. That's a long time ago.
Right.
I said, man, I'm still here. And I'm just blessed. And anything that I can do to help the organization and help the Corps, as long as I'm able, you can call on me, I said, I'll be available as long as I can. the organization, the church, the community. We did a lot of work in this chapter, finding families who had members had been in the Marine Corps, they'd been through Montford Point. We made a few trips up to the archives and we discovered quite a few. And got in contact with their families. And we had a certain number, I think it was 521. It was a 521, they went through Montford Point, we knew that. So that helped us out a lot. And then the other chapters in National picked up on it, and they were able to contact some families. Some the members were still living, and others was, passed on. So we were able to do that. That was a big help. Yeah.
I would say it's a tremendous opportunity. Like you said, from what I've read and researched, there's about 20,000 Marines that passed through Montford Point during the camp's activation, and I think we've been able to track down many of them, living or otherwise. But there's still the fact that there are Marines out there that have gone unrecognized after so many years. It's not also baffling, but it's beyond measure that these men lived a tremendous life, and yet their humility keeps them from being formally recognized for their actions.
Yeah.
So, like I said, sir, once again, Staff Sergeant Groves, I'm very glad to know you. I'm glad we've met.
I'm glad.
It's always a great time.
Meet you.
Sitting down with you.
Yeah. That's at one time, I believe, but I'm glad to do this. I know it's a lot of things that I haven't recalled, and if we have the opportunity, to talk again, if there's some information I can pass on, I thought I'll just write it down and then give you a call, and say, maybe we'll be doing it again. Someday when everything open up, we can get together and talk and have these conversations that I think, but I'm sure I missed some things. During my time in the Marine Corps, when I retired.
Indeed, you lived a great life, sir.
Yeah. I had Smile Johnson and Huff and all of them. Well, Smile Johnson, he was a camp sergeant major in Montford Point. And he'd tell the commanding officer, if you don't lock this man up, I'm going to jail myself. That was back in the days when they had rocks and shoals. They didn't have the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And God might do 2 weeks in jail before he got a court martial or something. Then the court martial, he might get 30 days cake and wine. Cake and wine, bread and water.
Okay. I was saying, yeah, I never heard of cake and wine as a punishment before.
the cake and wine. Man. And in them days at Canada, them like at Montford Point, all them platoons be out there drilling and marking time, and the big pine trees just be shaking. Then you march in the mess hall, go through the line, stand up and sit. As soon as you sit down and start eating, get up and get out there. You got to get up. When I'm falling formation. And we didn't have no days off. And it was even on Sundays they march us to church. they come back from church, and then Judo Jones, he want to go rabbit hunting. And you got to go out there in the woods with him, and the field. And there were some drill instructors. Through Jesus' blood burns. Judo Jones, Joe Call. They could call some cases. You'd be on one side of the field, they'd be way over there. But we could out-drill and outdo all the rest of them. And that's that 51st, 52nd Defense Battalion. They broke the records down, anti-aircraft fire, stuff like that. They beat the white boys. They came from all professions, doctors, lawyers, barbers, and educators, and everything, in the Marine Corps.
Well, I will say that there's something special about each and every one of you that answered the call.
Answered the call, and proved that we could be Marines in a big way. Then they found out we could fight. It's an integrated service. Have a truly integrated service, but they did really get integrated in Vietnam. You could fight and die. And back then in the 60s and stuff, you more or less was still getting the short end of the stick, That's the way the Vietnam veterans treated. I still don't like that, So I don't believe we had Agent Orange in Korea, but, they've been for a long time denying that Vietnam's had Agent Orange. They had about 147 different chemicals. I think they were spraying over there.
But sir, I do appreciate you taking the time to speak about your experience in the Marine Corps. And once again, I cannot express my gratitude for the things you've done as a Marine and as a man, and the legacy you guys established for my Marines and Marines that come after us. Okay. So for future generations, I hope that once they look back at what the things you've done and realize that, and be thankful for the ability for the path they have that can move forward. That you guys set that path up.
Thank you for taking the time to come out and talk with me. And like I said, about sharing some of the stuff, all the stuff that I know. I've seen the good and the bad, and the living and the dying, and in between, And just blessed to be here to talk about it.
Simplify, sir. Once again, I'd like to thank today's guest, Staff Sergeant Groves, for participation in today's interview. As the case for all Montford Point Marines, I have a tremendous amount of respect and reverence for what they have endured. With regards to Eugene, it is a humbling experience to be in the presence of a veteran in America's forgotten war. I hope today's listeners enjoyed this podcast and take away a deeper understanding about a lesser-known period of history. As the program continues to grow, I again encourage you and those who may feel interested in joining our organization. Preserving the legacy of the Montford Point Marines can only be achieved through active participation. We have chapters nationwide and encourage people to join without regard to race, religion, creed, or branch of service. As always, details on how to do so are in the description. Next up for the Montford Point Marine Podcast is a good friend of mine and the first Montford Point Marine I ever met, Sergeant Ivor Griffin. Look for that interview soon. Signing off, Captain Davis.